He's a billionaire, untouchable, feared, alone. Every year he visits his daughter's grave alone, silent, broken. But this year something shattered everything. A janitor, crying, with a little girl in his arms. And when he sees why they're there, what he discovers will shatter your heart and heal it at the same time. The truth about his daughter, the secret she left behind, and a family he never expected, or revealed in one unforgettable moment. Watch till the end, because this story will change how you see love, loss, and hope forever. The Billionaire. Pros, because the man crying at his daughter's grave wasn't family, wasn't a friend, he was the school janitor, and he wasn't alone. A little girl clung to his arm, like she was protecting him from the same pain he was drowning in. Alexander Grant, feared in boardrooms, respected in every city. A man who owned towers that touched the clouds, felt his chest tightened in a way money could never fix. The world knew him as a giant, a billionaire, a legend, but here, in this cemetery, he was just a father, with a wound that never healed. Every year on November 12th he followed the same routine. A black car, a bouquet of white Lilimelli's favorite, a silent walk to row 14, stone 7. No media, no bodyguards, no noise, just him, and the memory of the only person who ever made him feel truly human. But this year, something shattered that routine. As he turned the corner he heard soft sobs, raw, broken, desperate. At first he thought it was a grieving family visiting another grave, but then he recognized the name on the headstone in front of the crying man, Emily Grant. His daughter. Time seemed to freeze. The man, kneeling there, wore a faded janitor uniform, patches on the sleeves, dirt on the knees. He wasn't just crying, he was collapsing inward, like grief was pulling the life out of him. And beside him, a small girl, no older than 6, gripped his arm with trembling fingers. Alexander's breath caught. Who were these people? Why were they at Emily's grave? Why did the man cry as if he had lost her too? The billionaire took a step forward, his polished shoes crunching against the dry leaves. The child turned her head first. Her eyes were bright, innocent, and full of a sadness a child that young should never carry. She whispered to the man, "Daddy, is she really an angel now?" The janitor nodded slowly, wiping tears that wouldn't stop. "Yes, sweetheart, she saved us. Emily saved us." Alexander's heart slammed against his ribs so hard it hurt. Saved them, his Emily. How? His steps grew heavier as he approached. The wind grew colder. The sky seemed to hold its breath. When the janitor finally lifted his head and recognized the billionaire standing before him, his face went pale with shock. "Mr. Grant," he whispered, voice shaking. I didn't think you'd ever know the truth." Alexander's jaw tightened as he stared at the trembling janitor. His voice came out sharper than intended, cold, commanding, wounded. "Explain. Why are you at my daughter's grave? What truth are you talking about?" The janitor swallowed hard. His hands shook as he placed an arm protectively around the little girl beside him. "My name is Daniel Brooks, sir, and this is my daughter, Lily." Alexander's eyes flickered to the child. Lily lowered her gaze, clutching her tiny backpack as if it were her shield. Daniel drew in a shaky breath. "We're here because your daughter saved our family. She didn't just help USS, she gave her life for us." The words slammed into Alexander like a hammer. "My Emily," he whispered, "saved you." How? Daniel's voice cracked, each word dripping with guilt and buried pain. 5 years ago, my wife collapsed in our apartment, heart failure. I panicked. I didn't have a car. My phone battery was dead. I ran into the road begging for help, but people just stared or drove away. His eyes glistened with tears as he looked directly into Alexander's. "But your daughter stopped." Alexander felt his breath tremble. Daniel continued, voice trembling as memories clawed back to the surface. "She rolled down her window and said, 'Sir, get in. Don't waste a second.' She didn't hesitate. She didn't know us. She just acted. Like an angel disguised as a girl." Lily squeezed her father's hand, whispering softly, "Emily was brave." Daniel's tears fell harder. "She drove us to the hospital herself. She kept talking to my wife, telling her to hold on. She kept telling me everything would be okay. She even held Lily's hand so she wouldn't cry." Alexander's heart twisted painfully. That was his Emily, always helping, always giving more than she had. Daniel's voice grew hoarse, "And after my wife was admitted, Emily left to go home. I begged her to let me thank her, but she smiled and said, 'Just take care of your family. That's thanks enough.'" He shut his eyes, grief crashing over him like a wave. But on her way home, she was hit by a drunk driver. Alexander felt the world collapse beneath him. Daniel collapsed to his knees again. "I've lived every day knowing that if she hadn't helped us, she would have lived. But I also know she saved my family. She saved my wife that day. She saved Lily's mother." He looked up, voice breaking. "I come here every month to honor her, to thank her, to apologize, to remind my daughter of the guardian angel she never got to properly meet for the first time." In years, Alexander felt his cold stone heart begin to melt. Lily stepped forward timidly, clutching a small, crumpled piece of paper in her tiny hands. "Sir, I made this for her," she whispered, her voice soft but determined. Alexander's hands trembled as he took the drawing. It was a burst of colors clouds painted in pink and gold, a figure with long hair smiling down at a little girl holding her hand. The figure radiated warmth, like sunlight breaking through the heaviest storm. "You knew my daughter?" Alexander asked, his voice shaking with disbelief and a grief he hadn't allowed himself to feel in years. Lily nodded, eyes wide with honesty. "Daddy told me Emily saved Mummy, and she saved me too. I talk to her when I'm scared or lonely. She listens. She never gets mad." Alexander knelt down, trying to meet her gaze. He felt a strange pull, like he was staring at Emily's spirit, reflected in this little girl's innocent eyes. What do you tell her?" he asked softly, barely daring to breathe. "I tell her everything," Lily said, her voice quivering. "Tell her I miss Mummy. I tell her Daddy is scared sometimes. And I tell her I wish she was still here." Alexander's chest tightened for the first time. He realized how deeply his daughter's death had not only left a void in his own life, but in the lives of others. People Emily had touched, people who needed her light, were still carrying the echo of her kindness. Lily reached up and held out the drawing again, but this time Alexander noticed a small bracelet of colorful beads wrapped around her wrist. She whispered, "I made this for you too. Emily gave it to me in my dreams. She said you'd need it." Alexander's hands shook as he accepted the bracelet, feeling a warmth that had been missing for 5 long years. He looked down at her, voice breaking. "You're Emily. She saved your family. And she saved all of us, really. Even me. I lost her, but maybe she's not really gone." Lily smiled faintly, a small glimmer of hope in her young eyes. "She's always here. I know it. She's helping us be brave." In that moment, Alexander felt a shift within himself. His grief, once suffocating, isolating, and bitter, began to transform. It became gratitude, and a renewed sense of purpose. The child, the janitor, and a simple drawing had reminded him what he had forgotten: the power of kindness, courage, and love. Emily's legacy wasn't just in memories. It was in every life she touched, and for the first time in years, Alexander felt the possibility of healing and hope loom in his heart. Alexander stood in stunned silence, the crisp autumn air brushing against his face, as he tried to process the story Daniel had shared. Every word felt like a dagger and a bomb at the same time, painful yet transformative. "Daniel," Alexander began, his voice low, careful, almost trembling. "You said she saved your wife, but where is she now?" Daniel's gaze dropped to the ground. A heavy silence filled the cemetery. His shoulders slumped as if carrying the weight of the world. "She passed away 3 years ago," he said finally, his voice cracking like glass. "Cancer. I spent everything we had trying to save her. Nothing worked. I couldn't save her back, no matter how hard I tried." Alexander's breath caught in his chest. The janitor's story, the child's life hanging by a thread, the sacrifices, the nights spent in fear hit him harder than any business failure ever could. His daughter, Emily, had given her life for others. Yet here was a man who had survived only to suffer silently, unnoticed by the world. "And your job now?" Alexander asked softly, noticing the worn-out shoes, the patched uniform, the exhaustion etched into Daniel's face. Daniel gave a small, bitter smile. "I used to work as a mechanic, sir, a decent job, but medical bills, debt, and trying to survive. It all crushed me. Now I clean offices, schools, and hospitals. I work 2 jobs just to keep Lily fed, warm, and safe. I do what I can." Alexander looked at Lily standing beside her father, her small hand gripping his tightly. He saw the quiet dignity of Daniel's sacrifice, the devotion of a father who had given everything to shield his daughter from a world that had been unkind. "You shouldn't be living like this," Alexander said firmly, his voice trembling with a mix of anger and compassion. "Emily, she would never want this for you or Lily. She saved your lives, and now it's my turn to help. Not out of pity, but because she deserves it." Daniel blinked, stunned. I'm not asking for anything, sir," he whispered. I wanted her to be remembered. That's all. That she's not forgotten." Alexander's eyes softened. "She is remembered, and starting today, she'll be remembered in a way that changes lives, not just yours, not just Lily's, but for everyone she ever touched." He reached for his phone, the gears of an idea forming instantly. "I'm going to help you both," he said with quiet resolve. Because Emily's life wasn't just a story of loss, it was a story of hope, and now, we honor her the right way. Daniel's eyes filled with tears again, but this time, they weren't just tears of sorrow, they were tears of relief, gratitude, and a dawning hope he had never dared to imagine. For the first time in years, Alexander saw that grief could be transformed into purpose, and loss could be turned into action. 1 month later, Alexander Grant's life had transformed in ways he never imagined. The cold skyscraper offices, the endless board meetings, the silence of a mansion filled with memories, they no longer defined him. His heart, once guarded and frozen by grief, had softened. Emily's light, through the lives she saved, had found its way back into the world and into him. The Emily Grant Foundation was officially launched that morning. Its mission: to support struggling families, single parents, and children who faced life with no safety net. It was Alexander's way of honoring Emily's courage and kindness. On opening day, the cameras flashed. Journalists asked questions about philanthropy, strategy, and legacy. But Alexander only cared about the small hand in his own, the hand of Lily, Emily's little guardian angel in human form. She walked beside him, her eyes wide with wonder, as if she understood the enormity of what had just begun. Daniel, now dressed in a neat suit, stood proudly beside them, no longer a janitor worn down by life. He was the Foundation's lead supervisor, a role that gave him dignity, purpose, and the ability to provide a stable, loving home for Lily. Why start this foundation? A reporter asked. Alexander looked down at Lily, then at Daniel, and finally out into the crowd of families waiting for help. His voice was quiet but firm, trembling with emotion, because my daughter, my Emily, didn't die saving strangers. She died saving family she hadn't met yet. And now, it's my turn to carry her light forward. Lily hugged his leg tightly, whispering in awe, "Emily is smiling today, isn't she?" Alexander knelt down, brushing her hair from her face. "Yes, sweetheart. She's smiling, and she's proud of us." From that day on, they visited Emily's grave together. They laughed, cried, and healed as a new kind of family. Alexander learned to play with Lily, to support Daniel, and to live again not as a billionaire defined by wealth, but as a father and guardian of a legacy of love. The world saw a philanthropist, but Alexander saw a daughter's spirit alive in the lives she had touched. The grief that once consumed him had become purpose. The emptiness he had carried for 5 years was filled with hope, laughter, and love. And on quiet nights, when the wind whispered through the trees of the cemetery, Alexander imagined Emily smiling down at them. The billionaire who once walked alone had finally found a family again because of a janitor, a child, and the unshakable kindness of a daughter whose legacy would never fade. Hope had returned, and Alexander finally felt alive.